let's go ahead and just start. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Take Two Radio. I'm Pam, your host.
Thanks
and tonight
for listening to tonight.
What the heck is going? The technical things are going crazy. And tonight I have with me my co-host, Dawn.
Oh, I am so sorry. I hit the wrong button by accident. I am terribly apologetic, but I'm glad we didn't let it go too far.
I know.
So let's just go ahead and start, shall we?
Yes, and we welcome Emmy Award Winning Crystal Chappell from Guiding Light, Bold and the Beautiful, Days, One Life to Live, creator of web series Venice and the Grove, and many more things. Hello, Crystal, and welcome to our show.
Hi, Pam. Hi, Dawn. How are you?
We're doing good, thank you.
I understand technical difficulties.
Yeah.
Yes.
We figured you would.
Yeah. Mhm.
Oh my gosh. So I'm just exhausted reading about all you've done. How do you do it all? Do you sleep at all?
Well, I say my office is open from 12 to 12, which is midnight to midnight or noon to noon, however you want to slice it up. I'm a better person busy than I am not. So I just keep going.
I feel the same way. I mean, just because when you're not doing something, you're bored, and then you sit there and you eat and do things you shouldn't do.
That's right. That's just past that plate of fried food. That's all I want. Okay?
Well, you first started out on One Life to Live. What's your best memory of being on there, and what did it teach you about being on soaps?
On One Life?
Yes.
Well, I did a couple of shows before that, Days and Santa Barbara and All My Children a little bit, but One Life, the best, I loved my time there. I mean, the story was absolutely silly, but I love the people. I have long-lasting friendships with that group of people and the crew, and it's soaps are the hardest acting gig out there because you have so much material. You have very little time to do it. You very rarely get more than, these days especially, one take. So you just have to be really prepared and available. I admire soap opera actors so much. I really do. And when I was on One Life, there were a lot of Broadway actors that came and would do a day or two, and they would say the same thing. This is really hard. I don't know how you people do it. They're doing 8 shows a week live, and they're saying they're giving us compliments that this is amazing what you do. You just have to be prepared. That's all.
And have a good memory.
Well, the more you use something, the better it gets. So, when I'm having down periods or lulls in stories and I'm not working that much, I have a harder time memorizing the lines. So you just have to keep practicing that. It's a skill like anything else.
All right.
Yeah, that's something that has always fascinated me is how, people who perform in daytime, how they're able to do what they do, because it is, I don't think you guys get enough credit, number one, because it's a lot to go out and memorize lines on a daily basis and for, just a bunch of scenes that you have to shoot. And like you said, sometimes it's a one-take deal. So how do you manage to stay kind of grounded within all that?
You mean as a human being?
Yeah, possibly. I guess it's you can lose yourself, I guess, to some extent. But how do you manage to just keep from getting so overwhelmed? I guess it's a better way to ask the question.
Okay. It's little obstacles. I have fallen on my face many times, even later in my career with the amount of material. There's some days I go in and I just can't remember what comes next. And who knows, maybe it's a lack of sleep, maybe it's a lack of connection to the material, who knows what it is, but I'm always, it never ceased. So, as much as you practice and you get better at it, there's always that day where you go in and you're going, line, I can't remember anything. You just get brain tired, and and you're basically shooting the scene a line at a time. And sometimes I think that's, like I said, fatigue, but also just a lack of connection to the material. When I really love material, I tend to memorize it easier.
Well, now, one of the things that I'm curious about is, like, you've done soaps for a good part of your career, and now, you know, you transition, you're doing the web series, and, you know, you're doing all of it. I mean, you're not just in the web series. You know, you're writing, you're producing, you're directing. So how did you come up with the concept for, say, Venice and the Grove, and knew, you know, and how did you know it was going to take off?
Well, you don't know. You know, whenever you create some kind of art piece, you take on any endeavor, you don't know if it's going to take off. You just kind of know it's something you want to do and you hope for the best. But with Venice, I really wanted to, you know, I was on a show that was canceled, and I've never been on a show that's been canceled. And I've been a soap fan forever. So it's really daunting when you're in that situation and you love the show and you love the people, and it's more than just it being your you know, income. It's an emotional attachment. And you know, I had this great storyline with people that really touched a lot of people, and they shared their stories with me. And I've always wanted to produce, be creative that way, and just wanted to take it to the web, not really knowing what it all entailed, but, you know, wanting that freedom to do whatever it is that I wanted to do. And we happened to be in a very popular storyline, Jessica, Lucia, and I, and I thought, well, you know, if nothing else, they'll get to see these two chicks kiss. And, you know, fortunately for us, there was an audience there, you know, and it's a niche audience, but it's a very, very loyal and dedicated audience. So, like I said, it could have lasted one season and not worked, and that would have been fine with me because at least I knew I got it out there. But that's where it came from, and then it's just sort of been growing since, thankfully.
Yeah, well, you know, I think one of the things that I think that people have just loved about Venice is the storyline with you and Jessica, because, you know, it kind of blossomed and came to be on Guiding Light, and you know, fans just fell in love with that, and so, you know, I really like how you kind of took that and you just kind of continued it in a different way in Venice. And fans have just, you know, it's the next best thing to having you guys and having Guiding Light back, you know, honestly. Right. So kudos to you for that. But let's talk a little bit about Guiding Light, because, you know, I was a huge Guiding Light fan, still am, and was just heartbroken like so many out there when, you know, the big announcement came. And loved your character on there. So talk a little bit about how, you know, it came to be for you to be on Guiding Light.
The late, great Paul Rausch, when I was at One Life to Live, was trying to, he would call the office, the One Life to Live production office, and ask when my contract was up.
Really? Wow.
He had some big cojones, and I loved him for it. And so, yeah, and he just stayed in touch with me that way, and he created this role for me. I had auditioned for the role of Annie, and I went to the fabulous Signe Coleman, and but he created the role, and there was somebody at CBS that just wasn't loving me, and it was like, that's always a part of this business. So he created this sort of day player recurring role for me, and so I didn't have to go through network. And brought me in. I auditioned for Mickey Dwyer-Dobbin and got the role, and it was a recurring role for 3 months. But he kept a very close eye on it, and then after 3 months called me personally and said, I want to offer you a contract. And he pretty much, he wanted the character, wanted me on the show, but I remember when he turned Olivia really bad, like when she started to sleep with Alan to help her husband Josh, you know, be a better man. And I did the scene, and he was out on set. I was very naked. And so I went over to him, and I said, these fans are going to hate me. And he just smiled at me and said, I think it makes you more interesting. And that was it. And from that moment on, I went, I'll take the hate as long as the interesting comes with it. That's where that began, and different producers along the way. But finally, the great thing about Olivia was that she got to say what every other character on the canvas couldn't say because they had to be nice, or she got to play with a lot of different people, a lot of different storylines. I was always the insert, the character that's inserted into a storyline. And I learned that I was very insecure with her at the beginning, but I learned to have a lot of fun with her. It was a very educational experience as an actress, because you have to learn to just don't worry about what people are going to think. Just bite it off and do your best and make it interesting, and hopefully they'll be entertained. And that's the whole purpose of soaps anyway, So, that's how that came about. And then I'm very fortunate that I got to play her for 10 years.
Well, I have to tell you, Crystal, I want to clear the air now. If you had any concerns that, any GL fans were going to hate you, I can tell you from this GL fan, no, I never could hate you. If I wanted to, I couldn't. I mean, there were times when I screamed at my TV and I said, why are you doing this? But, in truth, at the end of the day, I still could not hate you because you had, I don't know if it's those beautiful eyes or what, but you just always had this way of still making people love you, even if they wanted to hate you. I mean, it just couldn't happen. And you had a way with those. You had a way with those men on that soap too. They all were eating out of the palm of your hand. You had them right where you wanted them. So, and as a woman, I can tell you, I really appreciated that about you.
Thank you.
It is so true. I believe that Olivia was the only character on that show that could speak her mind and speak it freely and get away with it. And you were speaking for every woman, that, every character. Next to Reva Shane, I think Olivia and Reva were about equal in that way, So it was,
And they were great friends. I mean, that's the thing. The writers loved that relationship at the end. So in our last episode, they built in that moment between Kim and I where we sort of, stood face to face with each other and really, truly acknowledge that, okay, you know what, I respect you. And but they purposely built in that moment because they love that relationship.
Yeah, and now let's talk about the last of Guiding Light, because I know for, you being a veteran, being there for 10 years, and gosh, Kim and Robert and so many of the veteran actors that made that show what it was. Gosh, how bittersweet that must have been. What were you feeling, and what were you, going through there at the very end, especially in that last day of shooting?
Oh, we had tequila shots going that last day of shooting. Whenever an actor would finish their last scene, Grant Alexander would walk. He had a little silver platter tray that he would walk around with a shot of tequila, and he'd walk up to you. And that was it. Or somebody would have to drink by proxy, and it was hard. But honestly, we got the news on April 1st, and we shot until mid-August. So by the time we reached mid-August, we were all either employed elsewhere or moving or planning, or it was a long goodbye, because we were a very close group of people, and to this day I stay in touch with them, and I adore. They're amazing people, and it was hard. It was just really hard, as I'm sure it was for fans.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I still sat there months after Guiding Light was officially off the air, and I kept going, this just can't be. I mean, this is not possible, because it just, I grew up, like so